What's up, y'all, and welcome to the Jack Vita Show. I'm your host, Jack Vita. Today is October 2nd, 2019. Can't believe we're in October already, but October means one thing and one thing only: playoff baseball. It's the greatest time of year. It's so much fun. I have an excellent guest joining me in a second, and we are going to preview the MLB playoffs and also give some picks for our regular season MLB awards. We'll probably be giving those later on in the episode. But at this time, I'd like to welcome in our guest for today. She is a radio personality at ESPN Phoenix, Makayla Perkins. How are you doing, Makayla?
I'm good. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited. I love postseason baseball, so I cannot wait to talk shop.
This is going to be great. I've been looking forward to this. This is going to be a lot of fun.
I'm excited.
Let me give you a couple of warm-up questions here. We'll
right.
play catch for a second here. What's your favorite ballpark, Makayla, that you've been to?
Ooh, that's a tough question. I grew up a Rockies fan, so obviously Coors Field is home for me. I recently went on a baseball stadium extravaganza trip a couple months ago, and I hit all of the Southern California stadiums. I think my favorite so far has been Petco Park.
I love Petco.
It's so beautiful. It's right on the water. I really enjoyed it there. I also went to Busch Stadium, and I loved it. I loved the history behind that stadium. So I don't know. Honestly, going to baseball stadiums, it's like a kid in a candy shop for me. I find something great about each stadium I go to. So I'm going to have a hard time picking my favorite once I get to all 32.
I feel ya. Yeah, it's tough. And now there's some Globe Life Park is gone in Texas.
I know. You were just there, weren't you?
I was, yeah. I was there over the weekend, got to see it in its final weekend of existence for the first time, and it's a beautiful park. It's sad that it's getting shut down.
What was it like when you were there?
It was really cool. The Rangers are red, white, and blue, and I feel like I saw just a lot of red, white, and blue. It felt very American, very much Texas. They had some great barbecue food, Hitters Park, lots of wind. It was I think when we got there, it was 90 degrees, and it didn't feel that hot because it's so breezy there.
Interesting.
Yeah. It's lots of nice, cool breeze. It's probably not always like that, and I was also in the shade, and it was at nighttime, but I think the players are going to be grateful to have a dome over their heads next year.
Yeah, I can imagine. Texas summers are not friendly.
No. But it was a cool park. I liked it. I wish I could go back, but I guess I'll have to see the new one.
Yeah, the new one will be cool to see. I never made it out to Globe Life Park before it closed, so I will have to catch the Rangers at their new field.
Yeah, I think it's going to be Globe Life Field, actually.
Oh, well, there you go.
Globe Life, whatever Globe Life is, they brought the naming rights, so they're going to keep those.
All right, well, at least it won't be too much of a change.
Yeah, won't be too confusing. Cowboy Stadium, or AT&T Stadium, is right across from there as well.
Oh, man, that has a lot to live up to. I heard AT&T Stadium is gorgeous.
Yeah, I haven't been inside, but it definitely looks the way that it looks on TV outside of the stadium. It was pretty cool.
I can imagine. That's definitely one of the stadiums I for sure want to visit before, or just, I guess, a bucket list trip.
Going back to your picks that you really liked, you like Busch. I've been there. Really cool. When you sit behind home plate and you can see the arch.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was beautiful.
Yeah. I like when you can see the city in the background. You can at Globe Life, but that's okay.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's why I want to go to PNC Park so bad.
Oh, yeah.
I heard it's absolutely stunning, and from the pictures, I can tell it's just an incredible ballpark, so that's definitely high on my list.
Did you go to Oracle Park during your trip?
No, so I was supposed to go to both the Coliseum and Oracle Park in September, but because of my new job, I kind of had some scheduling conflicts, so I wasn't able to go, which I'm super bummed about, but that will definitely be next summer. So I'm excited to see Oracle. I've heard good things about that park too.
Yeah, that one is awesome. I love that place. But Petco has my favorite ballpark food. Did you get anything at Petco Park?
Oh yeah, that's the first ballpark I went to that had acai bowls in the park. I know that sounds so lame, but I love a good acai bowl. So I had one of those, and then I had one of their ice cream helmet sundaes. That was delicious.
Oh yeah. I love I think the place is called Baked Bear, I want to say. It's
Yeah, we have that here in Arizona.
Oh, yeah. So you've had their ice cream sandwiches before?
Yes, so good.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, that is my favorite sweet treat that I've had at a ballpark. I had at Petco.
Yeah, that was between that and the acai bowl, but I decided to go the healthier option.
So this leads me into the last warm-up question that I have for you, and that is, what is your favorite food that you've had at a ballpark?
Oh man, that's an easy one because I love food. My favorite were the carne asada fries at Angel Stadium. Oh my gosh, those things were delicious.
Wow. I've been to Angel Stadium, and I'm bummed I missed out on those.
You didn't get the carne? Oh man, you definitely missed out. Those things, I think, honestly, my favorite ballpark food by far.
Well, the thing that I knew about going in, I did a little research on like what's the go-to thing. At Angel Stadium, I heard about the Halo dog. Have you heard of the Halo dog?
Yeah.
And they stopped making it. I was there in 2015. They'd stopped making it. But the thing was, it was like pico de gallo and bacon on a hot dog.
Mm-hmm.
And I just remember like sweet talking one of the servers, and she gave me bacon and pico de gallo to put on the hot dog. Like in a cup.
That sounds honestly good, though. I would eat that.
Yeah, it was great. So, just, I guess you can ask one of the people there, like, hey, can I get pico de gallo in a cup and bacon in a cup and a hot dog? And you can put it together yourself. It's really good.
That's so funny. I don't know about pico de gallo in a cup, but if you say it's good, I trust you.
Well, I mean, I wouldn't just eat it out of the cup. I mean, I put it on the hot dog.
Well, yeah, of course. But I don't know. It's still something about that sounds a little sketchy.
Yeah. All right, Makayla, let's get into some of our MLB postseason stuff. So the date right now is October 2nd, one day away from Mean Girls Day, by the way.
Yes, Mean Girls Day is tomorrow. It's October 3rd.
What day is it?
It's October 3rd.
So this podcast will be dropping on October 3rd, most likely, while the playoffs are beginning on October 3rd. We are recording this right before the AL wildcard game, so we don't know the result of that game. It's going to be a fun one. But last night we had a really, really exciting, amazing NL wildcard game. Wouldn't you say, Makayla?
It was awesome. I could just tell the energy in the ballpark was insane. I wish I could have been there, but it was such a good game. Honestly, it was a nail biter. I was honestly surprised. I guess I wouldn't have been as surprised if the Brewers had won, but yeah, I mean, it was a great game.
It was a great game. It seems like one of the big topics of conversation today, the Monday morning quarterback subject, is should Brandon Woodruff have been pulled after 50 pitches? I think he went 4 innings, I want to say. He had just come back from injury, so maybe he was on a restricted pitch count. Who knows? But we know how much Craig Counsell loves to go to the bullpen. It's tough.
Yeah, no, that's definitely a tough decision. I can see why, because he had an oblique strain, right?
Yeah, I think that's right.
So I could see why Counsell would be apprehensive to let his pitch count get too high, but also I think the Brewers have an interesting scenario with their bullpen, especially if you consider last year's playoffs, because Counsell strategized to use the bullpen first when they got further into the playoffs instead of going right to their starting rotation. So I can see why Counsell would be more willing to put in some of his bullpen pitchers instead of relying on some of his starters or even his middle inning relief pitchers. So I don't know. I can see why people are a little frustrated with that decision, but at the same time, with Woodruff's injury, I would be apprehensive to let him get too high in the pitch count as well.
Yeah. Seemed like the bullpen magic just sort of wore off. I think it's really tough in a one-game playoff to use a lot of different pitchers, and they didn't use too many because Pomeranz was in there, and I think he went 2 innings, and Suter threw an inning or two. It wasn't like they went.
But I mean, they did a great job. Suter and Pomeranz didn't give up anything. Like, they were pretty much on fire.
Yeah, they were excellent. And Hader, of all people, was the one who really struggled. I just think they've used up so much bullpen that you start to see a little bit of the fatigue here with Hader. And I think it's also tough when you have multiple pitchers having to get a feel for the game and coming in at different moments, whereas you can just ride one guy for a while. But they couldn't necessarily do that with Woodruff. So it was tough.
Yeah, well, and I think once Woodruff gave up that third inning homer, I think that's too kind of when Counsell was probably, his red flag started to go up, and he was like, maybe this is the time to make a change.
Yeah, definitely. But it was a great game. It's unfortunate that Trent Grisham has gotten a lot of crap today. I don't think he's gotten too much. I think people understand that had he not made that error out in right field, that they're probably going to score another run. I mean, they were going to tie it. They would have had second and third. They wouldn't have gotten that out in where Soto got in the run down. But give me your thoughts on that for a second.
Yeah, that was rough. I feel so bad for Grisham. I can't imagine his line of thinking after that play went down. Obviously, you can't pin one exact moment or one exact play on one person. Baseball is a team sport, which is why I love it. You know, it takes a team to win and it takes a team to lose. So if anyone is blaming him, I don't think that's justified because there are so many X, Y, and Z things that could have been done differently that would have led to so many different outcomes. But, man, you got to feel for that guy. I can imagine he has the weight of that game on his shoulders.
Yeah, he was going for that out at home plate. He was charging at it. And, sometimes that just happens. Went off his glove and nothing really else that he could have done about it. He made a nice recovery, threw a guy out.
Definitely, yeah. I mean, I just can't. Being in that situation, I can't imagine. I can't imagine what was going through his head. I'm sure as soon as he overshot that ball, his stomach just dropped. So yeah. I feel for the guy.
Scherzer bounced back very nicely after a rough start. Settled down. He ended up giving him 5 innings. And then the other big headline from this game is they ended up using Strasburg. Do they use him for 3 innings?
I don't know. I don't think it was 3 innings.
2?
I think it was 2, maybe. Yeah, I think it was 2. But I think using Strasburg is what kept them in the game, honestly. I think his performance is what allowed the team to kind of settle in and figure out their plan of attack. So I think going to Strasburg was a really good move.
Yeah, I love that idea of managing. I think it started this thing started to change a few years ago where managers, it's like a light bulb went off in their heads where they're like, oh, we don't have to wait till the 9th inning to use our best reliever. We can bring him in a high leverage spot. And now the evolution of that to we can use our second best pitcher who we would have start game 1 if we got out of this game clean, but we got to just focus on the day, win now, because if we don't win, season's over.
Yeah, well, and I think in this situation, obviously, like you kind of alluded to, it's a must-win situation. If you don't win, you're going home.
Yeah.
And I think the Nats are in a really interesting position because they have 3 really, really good pitchers. Obviously, Strasburg and Scherzer, but also they have Corbin, who I'm guessing is who they're going to start in game 1 against the Dodgers. But I think in the back of his mind, he knew, okay, if I pitch Strasburg after I just pitched Scherzer, it'll be okay because we still have Corbin left. And so I think maybe that kind of weighed into his Martinez's decision as well.
Yeah, Corbin will no doubt be the game 1 starter. We have not gotten any word on who's starting when. They haven't released, at least for that series, neither Davey Martinez or Dave Roberts, neither Dave or Dave has released their probable starters or who they're planning to have start those games. But
I think I did see, though, that Walker Buehler is projected to start for the Dodgers.
Oh, was that recent?
That honestly just happened a couple minutes ago.
Oh.
I was on Twitter, and it to me, what I gathered is Buehler is going to start game 1.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I see that now. Good catch.
Yeah, I think it's going to be an interesting matchup for sure.
So we'll definitely see Buehler versus Corbin game 1, because it'll be interesting what they end up doing. Where does Scherzer start? I mean, I guess he can't go till game 4, but Strasburg probably isn't going to be able to go till game 3.
Yeah, I would imagine, depending on how he's feeling, I could maybe see him starting game 2, depending on the results of game 1. I think if the Nationals lose game 1, they might want to start looking at pitching Strasburg in the second game. But also, if he's not feeling obviously recovered enough, I think game 3 would probably be the earliest Scherzer would go, or Strasburg, sorry.
Oh, yeah. It's interesting just the way that they've used Strasburg. He's never been a guy who's pitched on short rest in his whole career. So it would be interesting to see that if he did pitch game 2.
Yeah, definitely.
It could be Anibal Sanchez.
Yeah, I could see that happening as well. I don't know. In these type of games, especially when you're going up against the Dodgers, who are such an offensive powerhouse, you have to be really smart about the pieces that you use. And obviously, you don't want to get down early. Not saying that it's impossible to overcome a deficit, but it'll be interesting to see how they strategize, LOL, how they strategize for their matchup against the Dodgers. Honestly, I think the decisions that they make in terms of pitching is going to determine how that series goes.
Were you alluding to something with the strategize? Was that Saturday Night Live strategery?
Yeah. Put a little joke in there.
I was like, did strategize? I hadn't heard that one. I was like, strategery, the George W. Bush on SNL.
Yeah, that was it.
Will Ferrell.
I'm glad you caught that. Your listeners probably think I'm an idiot, but no.
Yeah, it's like, it was that sketch where it's like, can you describe your campaign in one word? And Will Ferrell.
Yeah, they were making fun of how. Yeah, they were making fun of how Bush always mispronounced words.
Oh, yeah. And speaking of George Bush, he appeared at Globe Life this weekend, which I thought was pretty cool.
Yeah, I saw that. My friend Hannah Wing is the digital host for the Rangers, so she was posting some behind-the-scenes stuff, and I saw he was there. So I can imagine that was pretty cool.
That's so cool. All right, so let's continue talking about this NLDS series between the Nationals and the Dodgers. The Dodgers are an interesting case because everyone's talking about the Dodgers. I'm sure they're the favorites to win the National League. They finished with the best record in the National League this year. I think they won 104 games.
106.
106, my goodness. But it's really, really difficult to win the pennant 3 years in a row. It hasn't been done by either league, National League or American League, since the Yankees did it. I think that was 2001, the last year that they did it, where they lost to the Arizona Diamondbacks. You like that nod there?
Yeah, that was a nice plug.
And the last time it's happened in the National League was the Cardinals, 1944. It's really hard to do that.
Yeah, no, it certainly is, but I think the Dodgers are going to do it. If any team were to do it, I think it would be the Dodgers. I think although they do have a lot of pressure to not only win, but make it to the World Series after their last 2 stints in the World Series didn't go so well. There is a lot of pressure, but I think pressure makes diamonds. And so I feel like if anyone's going to repeat that, it's going to be the Dodgers. Yeah.
I mean, it's hard to go against them. I do think at some point that could work against them, just the fatigue factor sometime in these playoffs. I do, however, like them against the Nationals. I would pick them. They would be my pick. However, I think that the Nationals could give them some trouble with their pitchers. I think that it could be a good series.
Yeah, definitely. I think the Dodgers are going to win as well. I actually have the Dodgers winning in 4. But, I mean, if you look at the season, the Dodgers obviously finished 13 games ahead of Washington. And they also beat them in the season series as well. The Dodgers scored the most runs and also allowed the fewest runs in the whole National League. And they have a plus 273 run differential, which is crazy. It's the third best of any team this century. So I think, with that factored in, and also the fact that the Dodger pitchers have the lowest combined ERA and WHIP as well in the National League, I think they're just coming at the Nationals from all sides, and they're firing on all pistons. Plus, not to mention the Dodgers have, who in my opinion is going to be the National League MVP, Cody Bellinger, on their roster. That's a huge bonus as well. I guess the only really downside that the Nationals are going to have to take advantage of is the Dodgers bullpen. I think their bullpen is definitely their kryptonite, and Kenley Jansen is so unreliable. So if, the Nationals can kind of figure out how to take advantage of that weakness, I think they have a shot at it. But like I said, the Nationals also, have Corbin, Strasburg, and Scherzer, so that's nothing to shake a finger at.
It's interesting because the Nationals bullpen isn't very good either. And which gets me to thinking, like, are any of these National League teams' bullpens all that great? Because in the American League, you could look at the A's, Rays, Yankees. I mean, all those teams, Astros, Twins, all their bullpens are really good. The Braves have had some questions. They're looking pretty solid, I guess, and the Cardinals as well. But none of these bullpens really wow me in the National League.
Yeah, I think all of the bullpen pitchers have migrated to the American League. So we're going to need to figure out how to get some of them over to the National League. But it's going to be interesting for sure. I don't know. I'm pretty confident in the Dodgers' ability to win the series, but I guess we'll have to find out.
Yeah, I think the Dodgers in 4 pick sounds about right. I think I may have to agree with you on that.
+2 when you consider the fact that Corbin is 2-0 against the Dodgers so far this year, and he has a sub-1, a .59 ERA against the Dodgers this season. So I think their best chance to win against the Dodgers will be in Game 1. Obviously, it's kind of hard to go into Dodger Stadium because their home field advantage is pretty sweet. But yeah, I think it's going to be a good series. I think the Nationals will put up a fight, if nothing else. But I think Dodgers in 4 is pretty much how that's going to turn out.
I mean, the Dodgers are going to have to beat, in this instance, to win in 4. If they lose to Corbin, they're going to have to beat both Scherzer and Strasburg in games 3 and 4, right? That's how. Yeah, that's the instance. But I think you can beat the Nationals if you can get those starting pitchers out of the game early. Just work the count. I think that's the best strategy or strategery to beat the Nationals.
Yeah, definitely. I agree.
Let's stay in the National League side. Cardinals and Braves. I think this is my pick. This is one of my 2 picks for best series in the divisional series round. Do you agree with that? Is this on your radar?
Yeah, I would definitely say so. It's not my pick for the best series, but I would agree that it's my second.
Yeah, it's between this and the Yankees and Twins for me, those 2.
Absolutely. That Yankees and Twins is, oh man, it's going to be a showdown.
I look forward to talking about this, or talking about the Yankee series. But, I mean, it's really, what's interesting about the Braves in this series? I'm really high on the Braves. I love what they did this year. I had them winning the division. I think I picked them to go to the NLCS. Going back to the MLB preview show that I did with Jordan Morandini, I had the Braves and the Cardinals as the last 2 teams in the National League. And here they are squaring off in the NLDS, and neither pick was super popular preseason because those divisions were a little crowded.
Yeah, that's interesting that you bring that up. I definitely think the divisions are crowded. I don't know. I'm not surprised by the Braves, but I think the Braves and Cardinals matchup is going to be solid. And I think the Braves are definitely a better offensive team than the Cardinals are. The Braves have 855 runs compared to the 765 by the Cardinals. So, I think it's going to be an interesting matchup. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah, and so what's really interesting to me right off the bat You did tease one of your award picks. I'm going to tease one of mine here. I like Mike Soroka a lot this year. I think he should be in the conversation for Cy Young. The Braves have decided that he will not start until Game 3 of this series, so he can only pitch once in this series. That's very interesting. The rationale they said is that he's great on the road, but I think he's just been great all around at home as well.
Yeah, I think. No, I definitely agree with you. I agree with you on that.
Yeah, so they are going with Keuchel Game 1. It'll be Keuchel versus Michaelis, which is also interesting that Flaherty isn't getting the Game 1 start. I think both those teams are favoring experience in this case.
Yeah, I would agree. Although, I don't know, I was surprised with Miles getting the start because I think if I was in that position, I would go with Flaherty because he has been like lights out, like so good.
Yeah.
And I think you have to really start with top down in that instance. But I mean, I guess we'll see how that plays out for him.
Yeah. So then we'll have Game 2, Jack Flaherty on the road in Atlanta, the second of the first 2 games in Atlanta. And the Braves will be starting Mike Foltynewicz, who was sent down earlier this year, but has found his footing recently and has pitched quite well down the stretch.
Yeah.
It does look like both teams are looking at the experience thing. So Soroka's not going to go till Game 3. And I think this is going to be a close series. Ultimately, while I'm not the biggest fan of this decision, I still have the Braves in 5. Just because I think the Braves are a more well-rounded team. But I think both these teams are really good. It's going to be a fun series.
Yeah, I have the Braves in 5 as well. It's funny you say that. That was my initial prediction. So I think it'll be a little bit more of a back and forth than the Dodgers and the Nationals. But I definitely see the Braves coming out on top with this one. But that kills me to say because I would love nothing more to see than Goldschmidt getting a ring.
Oh,
so
yeah.
That's a huge bummer for me, but I agree, Braves in 5.
And my preseason pick, I had the Paul Goldschmidt-led Cardinals winning the World Series. So I'm breaking that pick here, I guess.
I think at the beginning of the season, there was a lot of hype. And when they landed Goldie, I think everyone was just through the roof. But unfortunately, injuries have played a huge factor in their season, along with the Braves as well, with Acuna and Freddie getting injured throughout the year. But I wish more than anything Goldie would get a ring. Maybe someday soon.
He could. I mean, that wouldn't be great news for the Cubs, but if the Cardinals are perennially in the playoffs now, but that could be the case because they've got a really good pitching staff and just a really good, well-rounded team. You know what I like about the Cardinals? And I was texting some of my friends who are Cubs fans, and one of my friends texts me, and he says, and I agree with him completely, he's like, I'm supposed to hate the Cardinals, but I just can't even hate them because I'm watching them, and I'm seeing how they just field the ball so cleanly, they hit for contact, they run the bases well, they've got great pitching, it's a well-oiled machine, and my friend's like, I'm jealous of that. I wish the Cubs had more of that rather than the whole boom or bust mentality of hitting the long ball. I like Tommy Edman and the speed he brings and just the scrappiness of this Cardinals roster.
Yeah, I think that's a perfect way to describe them as scrappy. When I was there watching their game against the Giants, that was pretty much what I gathered from that entire game is that they're a scrappy team and like they just find ways to win that you didn't think would be possible when the game started, but they always managed to find a way to figure it out and get the win.
So you may have heard this, but I've heard Torey Lovello comment on Goldschmidt and other people around the industry, and there seems to be a sense from a lot of people, they think Goldie is worth like 5 to 10 wins just in a leadership. He comes in to your clubhouse, and as an awesome clubhouse guy, he just automatically makes your team better.
I could see the merit behind that for sure. When I started with the Diamondbacks, I worked for them for 2 seasons. I started as an intern, and Goldschmidt was the only person the only player that remembered my name, took time out of his day to ask me how my life was going. I told him a story about, a personal family story, and he would constantly, whenever he saw me, ask me about how that was going. So he's not only a great baseball player, but he's a great human. And I know that he was so well respected in the locker room when he was a Diamondback. I mean, the guys would talk about the leadership value that he brought to the team constantly. And, we have a lot of awards that are local to the Diamondbacks organization, and Goldschmidt would win every single one, whether it was like a community service-based one or a leadership award. It was always Goldie. So I can see why that would definitely be of value to a team, because he does have exceptional leadership qualities, and he's also just an upstanding human. But in terms of numbers, it's interesting because Diamondbacks first baseman this season, who took over for Goldie, they pretty much had the exact same line stats.
Yeah, Christian Walker.
Yeah, Christian Walker. He produced basically the same, if not better than Goldie in some areas. Obviously, he's not as experienced, and this was his rookie season, or his first full season in Major League Baseball. But and that's not a knock on Goldie. I think Goldie is a great baseball player and a great person as well. But his leadership is definitely invaluable, and I think that's definitely an asset that he brings along with him.
So similar numbers, but the win total went down from last year, I would think. Or it may have been about the same. It went down from 2 years ago, I guess.
It was about the same. Too. Yeah, they won 3 more games this year than they won last season.
Oh, so wow.
That's not a huge... Yeah, which is crazy because, sorry to get off on a Diamondback tangent.
It's fine.
But, at the beginning of the season, we lost Patrick Corbin, we lost A.J. Pollock, and we lost Paul Goldschmidt. And then at the trade deadline, we lost Greinke. So, at the beginning of the season, it was all doom and gloom because everyone was like, well, great, we're not going to win anything because you just traded away our best players. And then when things were going pretty okay and, Christian Walker started to step up and Ketel Marte was a huge surprise for the team, there became like a more positive outlook. But then when we traded Greinke at the trade deadline, it was all doom and gloom once again. And then the talk of the town now is basically just how the Diamondbacks have completely outperformed any expectations that were set for them at the beginning of the season, and how they exceeded all expectations in pretty much every area whatsoever. And especially considering that they did better than they did last year. And last year they had all those pieces. So it was a really crazy year for the Diamondbacks.
It was a crazy year. I appreciated that summary. That was fun to listen to. I like the insight.
Thanks. Random Diamondbacks tangent. I had to give a plug to my home team.
Let me give you a question about the Braves here. Who do you think is going to be their Game 4 starter?
Oh, gosh.
Tehran? Is he healthy? I mean, because I think he is, and then they got Max Fried. I think it'd be one of those two.
Yeah, I mean, oh, gosh, that's a hard question. I think definitely one of those two.
I think last year they didn't use Tehran at all until like the last game out of relief. He was struggling down the stretch, but he had a pretty good year this year.
He did. I think it definitely went better for him this year. Yeah, I guess I would go with Tehran, honestly.
Yeah, I love Max Fried. I think he's got a great future ahead of him, but I would favor the experience in this instance. And I think Fried would be an awesome bullpen weapon for them to deploy here in the playoffs.
As like a middle inning relief kind of guy, bridge to the
guy
closing.
Could go like multiple innings.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. But I also agree with you on the experience thing. I think experience plays a huge role in it. You don't want someone that's going to crack under pressure, especially someone that hasn't had as much experience. So, yeah, I agree with you.
All right. Anything else on this series that you're looking out for?
I'm interested to see how the long ball plays into effect with this. The Braves are 7th in average exit velocity so far this year, and the Cardinals are 29th. So I'm interested to see if they'll be able to kind of keep up with the Braves in that perspective. So I'll be looking out for that.
Yeah, that is an interesting point. I mean, I like in the playoffs, I think if you put the ball in play, lots of good things can happen because you can get those crazy errors, even like last night. Broken bat is a hit, and then you get the Grisham play that adds. I mean, that was a great hit, by the way. But weird stuff happens sometimes. There's just so much. Everything's pressurized in the playoffs. So I think if you put the ball in play, good things can happen, and you don't necessarily need to win with the long ball. But that'll be interesting to look out for.
Definitely.
So, someone just texted me. It was just, I thought it was going to be breaking news, but it wasn't. It was just Cubs managerial opinions from a friend.
Are you waiting on breaking news over there?
There's not going to be any breaking news I'm guessing there's going to be at least a week. We have to wait, but I would love Joe Girardi. I think Joe Girardi would be a great Cubs manager.
Honestly, that's so weird you said that, because when you were texting me telling me what kind of things you wanted to talk about, and the new managers were one of those things, I was thinking about it. And my first pick was Joe. So that's weird that you mentioned that, because I think, in my opinion, if I were the Cubs, that's who I would go with, especially considering his experience with the Yankees. And I think, Joe Maddon did a great job of taking a really young roster and raw talent and turning it into a World Series. But I think now those players have kind of matured their experience, and so they need an experienced manager who not necessarily can take a young team further, but take the team that they have and put the right pieces in place for the experience that's on their roster.
Yeah, I think that those are all great points. The thing with Girardi, people forget, like, what he had to manage so many egos with those Yankees teams.
Yeah, seriously.
A-Rod to Jeter to whoever else you want to throw in there. But just, I look back at what they did in 2015, where they overachieved, made it into the wild card game. And the big thing throughout that series, it was like the first year post Jeter, so they had to navigate through this whole thing of like, no more Jeter, he's the face of baseball, he's gone. Didi Gregorius is now, I mean, a lot of pressure on that guy. He played well right away. A-Rod just comes back from suspension. That's a big cloud hanging over the team. And then Sabathia has to check into alcohol rehab, treating his alcoholism. And they made it to the playoffs despite all of that. I think Girardi's great at managing egos, and I think, like you said, that's exactly where the Cubs are right now. They need someone like him.
Yeah, well, and a lot of people don't realize that he was a top candidate for the Reds job last season. And the Reds are kind of in a similar place with, the big egos. So I think he brings exactly what the Cubs need to that.
Yeah, I believe he pulled his name out from that. He
did, yeah.
Yeah, I think he was waiting. He's like, if I'm going to get into managing, I should have my pick of the litter, and I would think he still does. I mean, it's a crowded field right now for managers, because now Madden's out there. Bochy might want to continue managing, and then there are all these young guys that you don't have to pay that everyone seems to be into. All the front offices want a yes man, so we'll see what happens.
Well, while we're on the topic, what do you think of Mark Loretta moving up to be the manager?
I don't love it for the Cubs. I think if you get rid of Joe Maddon, part of it is you want to bring in a new voice, someone from the outside. And so I think David Ross, Mark Loretta, there was another name, Will Venable. All three of those guys are from the inside. And I think all three of them could end up being a great manager someday, but I just don't know if it's the right situation. I think when you make that kind of move, you move over to something different. I think that's where you bring in Girardi. Now, there is one guy that I like who has no coaching experience, who I think could be a great manager and actually could be a good fit for the Cubs. Do you know who I'm thinking of?
Maybe.
He's an MLB Network personality.
Oh, wait. Oh, shoot. Maybe? Okay, wait, no, just tell me.
Mark DeRosa.
Oh, okay, yeah. Interesting.
Yeah.
Why do you think that way?
Well, so the MLB Central is one of my favorite shows. I listen to his thoughts on the game every day, and he's made it very clear that the stuff that he puts a lot of value into in terms of veteran leadership, accountability, just it's very different from what Madden was about, and I think when you make a change, you got to go the other way. You got to get someone with a different approach, and it doesn't have to be entirely different. But I think the Cubs need a little more leadership and accountability, and not as long of a leash. And
you would think even though he doesn't have any managerial experience.
Yeah, so I'm not into that idea, but I favor that over some of these other options in terms of, because David Ross is getting thrown in there as a name, and I love David Ross. I think he could be a great manager someday, but I mean, the team, I just don't know if the guys would respect him. He was just played with them a couple years ago. With DeRosa, I feel like he'd have a little more backbone in terms of like dealing with the front office. He wouldn't be the yes man to the front office. And I like a lot of things that he says and his mentality on the game. So my point, I guess, Makayla, what I'm saying is if they had to go that direction and hire an inexperienced manager with no coaching experience, I think he would be the guy.
Interesting. Are you familiar with Herm Edwards from the NFL?
Of course.
So, yeah. So I guess I would equate it to that when Herm coached in the NFL for a few years for the Chiefs and the Jets, and then he got out of coaching and moved to ESPN, and he was an ESPN analyst. And then he got hired most recently as the head coach of ASU. Yep. And when that happened, the local media here was in an uproar. They were like, why are you bringing in a coach who hasn't coached in college for forever? And he got fired from his his NFL head coaching jobs. And so everyone was so upset, and they didn't understand why. And, when Herm did his press conferences, he'd be like, you don't forget how to coach, and you don't forget how to play. And I was a player, and I was a coach. And yeah, I've been in the media and I've been out of it for a while, but that doesn't affect my ability to be a coach. And so I guess I could equate that to if the Cubs went in that direction. I'm sure at first people would be kind of, why are you doing this? This doesn't make any sense. But just because, he hasn't coached before doesn't mean he wouldn't make a good coach.
And that's funny that you bring that up. I think that's a great comparison. And I felt like I was in the very slim minority saying, I think Herm could do a good job. I remember it was like between him and Gruden. I've been backing up both those guys, and we'll see what ends up happening with John Gruden. But I've always liked Herm Edwards, and I'm happy to see what he's done with the program in just a short amount of time.
Definitely. And now that he's successful, everyone is acting as if they never doubted him in the first place, and everyone's on the Herm train. So if the Cubs go in that direction, maybe everyone will be on the DeRosa home train.
The thing with Herm Edwards, he was so funny. And I think the thing is people just looked at him and they're like, oh, he's just a funny guy on ESPN. Like, they didn't take him seriously. And that's sort of the same thing with Gruden, that people forget that both those guys had some good success in coaching. And Herm, the thing that was so funny about him was, like, he would always, if he'd be talking about a player, he'd be like, ooh, he's a good football player. Oh, but he can't throw. Oh, no. Can't throw the football. Oh, but he's a good player.
That was a great Herm impression.
Have you met him?
I guess. Oh, yeah, I have. He's honestly, anytime I'm around him, I just want to run through a brick wall. Like, he is the coolest person ever, and he's so friendly. I love Herm.
That's awesome.
But I guess, too, not to get on even more of a tangent, but the Yankees did something similar when they hired Boone. Yeah. So, it wouldn't be that far out of the blue if they went in that direction with DeRosa.
That's just, it's a trend right now. People want to hire the inexperienced guy that they don't have to pay as much. But I really would like to get some experience in here for the Cubs. They're in their window right now, and I think that would just be ultimately the best decision to get Joe Girardi. And the other thing about Girardi, he played on the Cubs. I remember watching him as a kid when he played here. He was here 2 different stints, grew up here, went to Northwestern. His grandparents are from here. His parents are from here. He's an Illinois guy. It just seems like it makes too much sense. Like, it's got to happen, right?
Yeah, I would think so. When I was thinking about who would replace Madden, that was my first choice. So we'll see.
You got any other managerial thoughts? And we'll before we do the AL?
Honestly, I've been so wrapped up in postseason baseball that I haven't
Yeah.
thought about it too much, other than, honestly, I think the most sense for the Padres would be to hire Joe Madden.
Yeah, I think so too.
I think there's a lot of similarities between the 2015 Cubs and the current Padres roster. They've got a lot of young, inexperienced talent currently on the roster, and then you take a look at their farm system and the guys that are coming up through that. I think it's very similar to how the Cubs were structured. So I think if anyone can take a young team and make them successful, I think Joe Madden's the person to do that. So I think the Padres would most likely go in that direction. I think it would make the most sense.
Yeah, I would agree. I think Madden, it's going to be between the Padres and the Angels, and I think he's a free agent here. He can make his pick. I think he can pick between either of these spots. He's going to be sought after by both organizations. There's a lot of history with the Angels. Personally, I would be a little more attracted to the San Diego job because I do think they're going to turn the corner faster than the Angels will. But with his history with the Angels, I mean, look, here's the thing, Makayla. Whenever someone loses a job, I feel bad for the person. But it's like, I know he's going to be set up good because he gets to move out to the West Coast. He's going to have some warmer weather, probably less pressure from the local media. So I think both those jobs are really good, and I think he's going to be really happy with wherever he goes.
Yeah, I agree. I think he'll be fine. You know, it sucks to lose a job, but he's got one right around the corner, so he'll be good.
Yeah. Do you think the Angels thing could come to fruition?
I do, kind of for the reasons that you just mentioned. But I think the biggest detractor is the fact that the Angels have a lot of issues, and I think they are further out from, like you said, turning the corner than the Padres are. So I feel like if he's interested in success, not necessarily, well, I guess success in terms of wins and winning and getting to the playoffs, he would go with the Padres. But I can understand his connections to the Angels organization and why he would be inclined to take that job as well. But I definitely think the Padres are on a faster track to success than the Angels are.
And correct me if I'm wrong, in other news, no word on the futures of Gabe Kapler or Mickey Callaway, if either of those guys are coming back yet, right?
No, yeah, that's a huge question mark if those guys are coming back. I would imagine not, but that's just my personal opinion.
Yeah.
But I don't think by any means their job is safe.
The thing that's so weird is you would think if they're coming back, they would have said something by now. Like they would put the issue to bed.
I mean, I would think so. I agree 100%. I think there's a lot of speculation going on right now. And if they're trying to quiet that speculation, they would just, nip it in the bud and be like, no, they're coming back or something like that. But I definitely think that their jobs are in jeopardy. So I'm definitely going to be watching that closely because I think it'll be interesting to see what direction they go in.
And the Royals, with Ned Yost retiring, I've been hearing Mike Matheny's name as a replacement as well.
Really? I haven't been following that one. I know that obviously Yost retired, but I honestly, I couldn't tell you anything about the Royals. The Royals are an interesting organization, that's for sure.
Well, I just got my Jorge Soler powder blue Royals jersey in the mail last night. So
wow. That's pretty cool. I will say their jerseys are clean.
Oh, yeah. The powder blue, I mean, I have a Kershaw Dodgers jersey, so I had to get the powder blue Royals jersey because the home solid royal blue, that the Dodgers and the Royals kind of have the same look on those.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I had to get the powder blue this time.
There you go. I'm jealous. I need to expand my jersey collection.
So yeah, he's been linked to that. I guess it could be interesting with the Mets and Phillies if one of the reasons they're waiting is if they're trying to see if they can get one of these experienced managers, if they can book some meetings with them, because maybe they're trying to see what they're going to be able to replace them with, because you don't want to just fire a guy and then be like, oh wait, we don't have a better option after all.
Yeah, I guess my biggest concern with Matheny, he has kind of like a negative rep, doesn't he? Kind of like not so positive.
He developed it towards the end there. Yeah.
So I'd be I mean, I feel like there would be a little bit of a backlash with that move. I don't know. I could be wrong.
I've heard he's a great guy in real life. He does manage. He's a drill sergeant kind of manager. But sometimes you have seen managers thrive in their second act, and I mean he did a good job with the Cardinals those first 3 years post La Russa.
Right.
But they struggled, and maybe there's part of it. Maybe who knows how much of it was him, how much of it was the roster construction. I don't know. It'll be interesting. But you know who else is also out of a job is Clint Hurdle, too.
Yeah, that's true. Were you surprised by that?
I was surprised by that. I think he's a really good manager.
Well, I think most importantly, he was surprised by that, too. I think last I heard, he was expecting to come back for another season.
Yeah, he was there for 9 years as well.
I think there were, before the attitude kind of shifted towards Hurdle, I think that I heard just through the pipeline that they were in talks to bring him back for the 2020 season. So I'm sure that was a little bit of a surprise. I know towards the end of the season, things started to shift and things weren't going as well, probably as the Pirates organization had hoped. But yeah, I don't know. I think whoever they bring in, though, I think they need to bring in someone kind of that is like a Craig Counsell-esque in terms of how he manages and that new wave kind of style, just because obviously the Pirates are a very old organization and a lot of the things they do are that old style baseball. And I don't think it's been working for them. So I think that they need to kind of bring in a fresh, young perspective that will help turn that organization in a more positive direction. I don't know about you, but I'm kind of tired of seeing them plunk anyone for any reason whatsoever. So it'll be interesting to see who they bring in.
Well, see, I like having the different approaches around the league. I like having that diversity of opinion and thought when it comes to the unwritten rules of baseball. So I like that about Clint Hurdle. But yeah, it does get a little old. I think they will go in another direction. And actually, if you want to talk about locations for Joe Maddon, now I think he would prefer going out to the West Coast, but from an interest standpoint, I know he's not a younger guy, but he has a very different mantra from Clint Hurdle, and they've got a young roster. They want those players to develop. I think that would be really, really fun if you had the Maddon versus the Cubs in the same division for the next few years.
Yeah, that would definitely be interesting. I think I agree with you that Maddon definitely would take the team in a different direction than what Hurdle did. So it'd be very interesting.
Yeah, and I don't think he liked Clint Hurdle personally either. So
no, yeah, there was definitely some bad blood there. Definitely some tension. So I would be a little salty if I was Hurdle, if I was replaced by him. But yeah, that's the nature of the business.
All right, you ready to go over the AL side?
I am ready as I'll ever be.
Great. Okay, so let's talk before we get to the big one that you and I both are really excited about. Let's talk about this Astros versus the winner of the wild card game. Which of these teams, A's or Rays, do you think the Astros would rather see?
I think the Astros would rather see the Rays, but I think the Athletics are going to win.
I'm on the same page with you there as well. I don't typically agree with people this much.
We just have a great minds think alike thing going on.
Yeah, for sure. So I think anytime you play someone in your division, that's difficult. Now, look, they lost the season series to the Rays. Make whatever you want out of that. So they're 3-4 against them this year. And the Rays have a lot of healthy pitchers now because Glasnow's back, Blake Snell's back. So that could be an interesting series. I almost wonder if they would rather play the Twins than play either of these teams, because then in the Oakland's case, anytime you play someone in your division, I don't think anyone ever wants to meet someone in their division in the first round of the playoffs. Oakland A's have won 6 of their last 8 games against the Houston Astros.
Yeah, the A's are red hot right now, and that has a lot to do with the people that they have in their lineup. But going back to your Twins point, I don't think anyone wants to face the Twins. I think the Twins are one of the better teams in the playoffs right now. But in terms of who's going to be facing Houston, I definitely think it's going to be the A's.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see how they handle that, like you said.
It should be a real pitcher's duel tonight, at least until the bullpen guys start coming in, which with Kevin Cash could happen, in the fourth inning. But Sean Manaea has been electric lately on the Oakland side, so he'll be fun to watch.
Yeah, I think you couldn't ask for a better matchup between Manaea and Morton. So
yeah,
I agree with you. It's a pitcher's duel, I think, is what we're in store for. I think the key to the game is going to be getting Matt Olson going, along with Marcus Semien. So we'll see how they can handle that. But I'm really excited to watch the pitching matchup between Morton and Manaea.
You know what, Makayla, would be really cool if the Rays won this game, we would have the OJ series. You know what I mean by that?
No.
This has nothing to do with Orenthal James Simpson, but both of the ballparks are sponsored by Orange Juice Company.
Yeah, you're right. That's so funny. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, Minute Maid and Tropicana.
Tropicana, yep. That's so funny. The king of the orange juice.
Do you have a dog in that race between Tropicana and Minute Maid?
I gotta go with Tropicana, honestly. I'm a Tropicana girl through and through.
Yeah, Tropicana, I'm pretty sure is the one that had the logo with the orange with the straw in it.
Yeah, it is. Yeah,
that was definitely my orange juice of choice and has been ever since.
Oh, yeah, I got a jug of Tropicana in my fridge right now.
So, could that swing things in the favor of the Rays?
I don't think that'll have anything to do with it, but if it turns out that it's a showdown of orange juices, I would be very happy.
Has anything else, like when we've had a playoff series between two teams with similar kind of sponsors, does anything come to mind for you? I know of at least one.
I was gonna say back when Oracle was AT&T, AT&T and T-Mobile.
Oh yeah,
for the Mariners.
But we didn't get that as a playoff series.
No, yeah. I was just thinking in terms of naming rights. Would it be a bank? Is it Banks?
That's probably happened. The one I was thinking of was the 2006 NBA Finals between Miami Heat and Dallas Mavericks. I don't know which was which, but I can guarantee you one of those teams was American Airlines Center and the other one is American Airlines Arena.
Oh, okay. I see what you mean.
Yeah. Now that wasn't.
That's so funny.
That was like the same sponsor. That's what's so weird. It wasn't like two different airlines. It was the same one.
Yeah, no, that is weird. I wouldn't have known that unless you brought it up. That's so funny.
Yes, but ultimately we can talk about A's and Rays all day. I don't think either of us are ultimately going to pick either team over the Astros.
No, not at all. Not a chance.
The Astros are just too good. They're just
way too good. They have the best rotation. They have the best lineup top to bottom. They have a really stellar bullpen. I mean, honestly, I don't see anyone beating the Astros. I think they're going to win the World Series this year. So whoever wins this wild card game, they got a tough battle in front of them because I think the Astros are no question going to win that game. I
will go with the Astros, but I will say I think either team can push this series to 5 games. I think it's going to end up being a pretty good series.
Interesting. I have the Astros winning in 4.
Okay.
So I guess we disagreed a little bit for once.
It does. I think it does hurt a lot for the A's to not have Manaea be able to go 2 games. So that could be costly. But I think the Rays pitching staff could, if they do get through this game, I like how much depth they have around their bullpen and their starters. So I think their pitching could push that series to 5. I think the A's, just the rivalry factor, division series, I think that could end up being good series as well to 5.
if the Rays win today, do you think they go with Snell first?
They might go Nick Anderson because he's healthier.
Interesting.
Right? I mean, like I don't know how has Snell been doing lately? Like in terms of, has he been going 6 innings? Has he been like, what's his pitch count been?
Honestly, I don't think it's been stellar. He's 6-8 on the year, and his ERA is getting close to 5. So, I mean, yeah, I guess I could see your point with not maybe trusting him with the first game of the series.
But hey, it would give Kevin Cash a reason to go to his bullpen even earlier, which he loves doing.
True,
So
you're not
probably
wrong.
Will be Blake Snell then. Part of the logic for the Nationals last night with Scherzer is you don't want to lose that game and think, what if we had used Scherzer? We don't know what would have happened. We should have used Scherzer. Like, you got to do that. So I think that could be that thought process could occur with the Rays with going to Snell early. And I think you're right. I think Snell will go game 1 if we get there.
It'll be interesting for sure. I mean, like I said, I don't really think it matters all that much because I think the Astros are going to definitely be dominant in that series. So I don't know. That's going to be hard. It's going to be hard for either team that has to face the Astros. I do not envy their position.
No. We could see Glass now in relief tonight too.
Yeah, I was going to say that. It would be interesting. I feel like it would be a very similar situation to what the Nationals were in yesterday.
Yeah.
So I think it would have to be, I think that they would need to feel like their backs were up against the wall to do that. I honestly feel like that's kind of the mindset the Nationals were in when they went to Strasburg, was like, oh gosh, this is a one and done game. We gotta do something here to ensure that we can at least stay in this fight. So I think if they did go to Glass now, it would be kind of like a similar situation to what the Nationals were in.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly. So we do agree on something in this series. I mean, we agreed on like 85% of the series.
I was gonna say we're doing good so far.
Well, I meant even in this series, like I said, we agree on pretty much everything. I just have it going to 5, and you have it going to 4.
Yep.
All right, let's get to the big one. Makayla, what excites you about this Twins-Yankees series?
Oh, I think this is the most evenly matched playoff series out of all of them. I think the Twins are mashing the ball, and the Yankees are pretty much doing the same. And I think it's going to be an absolute gunfight for the entire series. I don't think it's going to be a pitching duel. I don't think it's going to be a low run score. I think they're absolutely just going to be like hitting dingers left and right. And I'm so excited for that because who doesn't love a good dinger?
For sure. There's going to be a lot of them. And there was that one crazy Yankees-Twins game where they played a weekend series. I want to say it was like a Friday night game where it was like, what was it, like 13-11 or something like that? It was a crazy game, and we're going to get that for
so
5.
High scoring.
Yeah, we're going to get that 5 times potentially. It's so exciting.
I mean, the Twins have hit 307 home runs this year, and they have 5 players on their roster who have hit more than 30 home runs each. I mean, I don't know what they're drinking in Minneapolis, but holy cow, they cannot seem to not make contact with the ball. It's crazy.
Let's just say they're probably eating their spinach like Popeye.
Yeah, I would definitely say so.
In terms of pitching matchups, I mean, like you said, neither of these teams, their starting pitching is really great. From the Twins side, I would expect to see, obviously, Jose Barrios. He would be the game 1 starter. Jake Odorizzi, and then Kyle Gibson, and who else?
For the Twins?
Yeah.
I would imagine probably Trevor May and Tyler Duffy.
Yeah, Gibson struggled a little bit this year.
Yeah, I would say, I think the Twins' weakest part in terms of their pitching is they don't have a deep middle relief group. I think, Trevor May and Tyler Duffy are probably the best hope to kind of bridge that gap until Rod. Yeah, I think that'll be interesting to watch. I totally agree with you, though. Berrios is going to be the starter for the Twins. The only thing, though, is that he has some pretty not great combinations. I know he likes to throw his curveball and then a fast and away combo, and I think he gets destroyed every time he does that. So he's going to have to figure out how to stay away from that combo if he does start. Otherwise, I think the Yankees are going to jump out to an early lead and take advantage of that.
Yeah, I agree. And then on the Yankee side, no Domingo Germán. Really not good circumstances there. We won't go into that. But who would you expect to see as the Yankee starting pitchers? Because we haven't gotten any news from either of these teams on their probable starters, unless you've seen it and I haven't.
No, this one I haven't seen. I don't know. I mean, my gut would tell me Chad Green, but I don't know. I think it'd be smarter to use CC as like a long relief option. That's tough because the Yankees, their
James
pitching
Paxton
is interesting.
Will be one, I guess we can say.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. That's hard. I mean,
know,
I think
it's weird.
The only bright spot in the entire pitching staff for the Yankees is Aroldis Chapman, and I don't know. That's tough. It's hard. I can't.
Probably Severino would probably get one game, would be my guess. Severino, Paxton, and then they could use that opener format that you bring up with Chad Green.
Or even Tonka and Happ, J.A. Happ.
Yeah. Tough decision.
That's hard. I don't know. What would you do if you were Boone? Who would you pick?
Oh man, I don't know. I think we pretty much you got to go Paxton, but pretty much all those names that we just said, right?
I mean, yeah, I guess. I don't know. That's a hard choice. I think that's the Yankees' kryptonite is their pitching.
So I think whatever happens in this series, the Yankees are the favorites. I know that. And for all year, we've heard Yankees and Astros. It seems like everyone's like, it's a two-team race. The American League, it's these two teams. I don't know if the Yankees are evenly matched with the Astros. I think they're evenly matched with the Twins. I think
the only people that think the Yankees are going to beat the Astros are Yankees fans, okay? Let's just get that out of the way. There's no way that the Yankees are going to, I mean, unless the Astros like astronomically implode. I don't think there's any way. Did you like that little word association? I don't think there's any way the Yankees beat the Astros. Honestly, and if you want this is just my opinion, hot take, I think the Twins win in 5.
Ooh.
Yeah.
I don't think that is too hot of a take. I hadn't made up my mind, but I'm going to pick the Yankees here to disagree with you. So we have some disagreement, but here's the thing. I think the Twins this is what's really, like you said, no one wants to play the Twins, especially the Yankees if they were to advance. The Twins are going to ding up their pitching staff right before they play Houston. So the Astros could potentially sweep the Yankees if the Yankees somehow get through this series.
Yeah, I totally agree. Oh, man, it's tough, but I don't know. I think the Twins are going to pull one out. I think the Yankees are a little bit overhyped, as typical Yankee-esque news is. I think they really struggled down the stretch this year, so I think the Twins are a better team. So I think it'll, and not by like a wide margin, but I think the Twins in 5 for sure.
I think the thing is, like, I was getting ready to be like, yeah, the Yankees, but then as we started talking about those pitching staffs, we don't even know who would go for the Yankees, and we're like, okay, a few of those Twins options are actually pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because I think the Twins have a better starting rotation than the Yankees do, but the Yankees have a better bullpen.
Yeah.
So if, Aaron Boone pulls out a Craig Counsell type move and goes with the bullpen first, and then maybe some of their starting pitchers to close out the game, I think that would be an interesting way to combat that. But I don't know. It's interesting because they have an opposite issue from each other where the starting pitching is better for one team, whereas the bullpen's better for the other. Excellent.
This was great analysis on these first 4 series, unless there was something else you wanted to bring up on this series in particular.
I'm just excited to watch it. I just want to watch it now. I think it's going to be a great series.
I'm so excited. The Friday of these playoffs where you have all 4 games on, it is one of the best sports days of the year. It doesn't get talked about enough. It's up there with the the first weekend of March Madness. It's just so great. I love it.
Yep, I agree 100%. I'm going to be glued to my TV. You're not going to be able to tear me away for any reason whatsoever. So let's go, baby. I'm excited.
Okay, so let's recap. You had the Twins, Astros, Braves, Dodgers. And
yes.
I had all those teams except I went with the Yankees instead of the Twins. So who's in your World Series? I don't want to go like super in depth on these potential playoff series that may not even happen, but who do you have in your World Series?
I have the Astros and the Dodgers in my World Series, and Astros in 6.
So I have the Astros and the Braves.
Oh, interesting.
And I do think that one of these National League teams could make it tough on the Astros as well. But I do have the Astros winning because they have the best team. I just don't see what we saw last year was a battle between 2 teams that are very evenly matched. Maybe the Red Sox were a little better, but I don't see a juggernaut. It was like there were 2 juggernauts that crashed into each other and only one of them could emerge victorious. And I don't think there's another juggernaut, but I do think one of these I think the Dodgers, Braves, Cardinals, I think any of those teams could give the Astros a great run for their money.
Yeah, and I agree. And that's why I didn't say, the Astros win in 5 or the Astros win in whatever. I think 6 is a reasonable, just because I don't see it going how the Astros and Dodgers series went 2 years ago. So I think it's going to be a little bit more of a dogfight this year, but I don't see any holes in the Astros lineup anywhere. Do you?
No. And you know what I love one of the guys who's underrated on this team is Michael Brantley. He's just a great contact bat to have. And one of the things I love about the Astros is, in addition to their dominant starting pitching, they don't strike out a whole lot. They won it 2 years ago as the team that did not strike it. The least amount of strikeouts in baseball. And as we touched on, playoff baseball, strikeouts get you nowhere. But if you hit the ball in play, good things can happen. And the Yankees are going to strike out a good amount with their power bats. That's just something that's going to happen. So in the Red Sox last year, they had a similar approach with contact hitting. I love that model.
Yeah, definitely. The Astros, their power hitters are also smart hitters. They're not taking wild swings at balls that you would never swing at in a million years. They're strategic. They can get back in counts. I've never seen a team that could be down 0-2 and come back and get into a 3-2 count. It's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, and also for the Astros, too, don't forget, Yordan Alvarez. I mean, wow. What an unexpected, I guess maybe not unexpected, but a pleasant surprise for that team.
Yeah, he was a little under the radar in terms of other rookies in the American League. I know a lot of people had Eloy Jimenez or Vladdy Jr. We're going to get to our picks in a little bit for the awards. I was going to comment on your World Series. So you have a rematch from 2 years ago, and like you said, you don't see it going the exact same way. 7 games. I think it's interesting because I think when 2 teams meet in a championship, it's really hard to beat the same team two. I guess it wouldn't be 2 years in a row, but 2 matchups in a row. You could look at how Clemson and Alabama have kind of gone back and forth, or the Lakers and the Celtics in the 80s would go back and forth. That would be interesting. I mean, that would be really tough for the Astros to do twice, but if there's one thing about the Astros that we've said, they could totally do that.
And if we know anything about the Dodgers, they tend to choke in really important situations. So it wouldn't be surprising if the Dodgers wet the bed, as typical Dodgers do. So I don't know. I don't see anyone beating the Astros. I don't care who you throw in there. I really just think that there's no holes in their lineup. They've got powerful hitters, smart hitters, incredible pitchers, Cy Young pitchers. So, yeah. It'll be a good World Series, though.
So your bold pick for the playoffs, I guess, I'm not going to put words in your mouth, but I guess that would be the Twins, because that's a little bold. That's a little against the grain.
Yeah, definitely. I would say that's my one bold prediction, would be that the Twins beat the Yankees.
And my bold prediction is that the Dodgers will not win the NL pennant. I think that the Braves are going to beat them. I just think eventually fatigue's going to set in. I think they're going to run into a tough matchup. And the bullpen has question marks. There are just a lot of things. I didn't love, the Dodgers the last couple months of the season, while they still finished with 106 wins, and while they were still clearly the top team in the National League, the Braves almost caught up to them. And they
did.
Yeah, they were. I mean, they ended up. I think the Braves won 98, so I guess they still had 8 games. But it was like a few weeks ago, the Dodgers were only up 2 or 3 games on them. And so I guess the Dodgers then did end up finishing strong. But I just think where the Braves came from with all their injuries, slow start at the beginning of the year, things are clicking. I like the Braves. I think I like the Braves as a National League team.
I mean, listen, my favorite team is the Rockies, and I worked for the Diamondbacks, so I absolutely hate the Dodgers. So I would not be upset if the Dodgers lost to the Braves. Honestly, I prefer it. I do not like the Dodgers, so, I wouldn't be mad if you were right.
Well, we will see. So I guess I would go Astros in 6, only over the Braves, not the Dodgers.
All right, there you have it.
Yeah, there you have it. Okay, let's do our awards quickly here, and then I'll let you go. Let's do Manager of the Year first. Who do you have in the American League?
I have Aaron Boone.
Yeah, I think he's going to win it.
I think so, too. I think he deserves it.
I think really it's wide open in both leagues this year. I mean, I think Boone does deserve it because of all the injuries that they had to go through. They had a great year. But there's a case to be made for Rocco Baldelli or Melvin with the A's. So, I mean, the A's won 97 2 years in a row.
Yeah, he totally turned that organization around.
So, I think Boone gets it. I think he deserves it. In the National League, you could go any of these. I think you could pick any of these guys who manage their team into the playoffs, and that's the right pick, or it's a defendable pick.
Definitely. I would agree with you. Who do you have?
You go first.
All right. I feel like I might get a little bit of flack for this, but I have Craig Counsell.
I don't think so. I think he's got the most momentum building up right now.
Yeah, and for similar reasons to, Aaron Boone, he did a lot with the team. Considering the injuries. I mean, they freaking lost Christian Yelich, the reigning MVP. Yeah. So I think what he did with the team and the circumstances around it were impressive. He's also a really great person. And I think he would be a good choice for the Manager of the Year.
It's so tough because with him and Davey Martinez, you can do the whole thing of like they lost someone because the Nationals lost Bryce Harper. They had a lot of injuries. They were 19-31 at one point and still ended up with the first wild card. So there's a strong case there. You could go with any of the division winners. I'll go with Davey Martinez.
Okay, that was who I was thinking about too. I was between Counsell and Martinez for me, but it's not a bad pick at all.
And the way the award goes is no one ever wins it 2 years in a row. It's just
right.
Yeah. Do you even know who won it last year?
Wait, didn't
was it Snitker?
Yes, yeah, it was.
Yeah.
He won it, and then I'm trying to think. It was
before that?
Melvin won it last year too.
Oh yeah. So yeah, Melvin's not winning it this year.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, okay, Boone, and then I think Counsell and Martinez. That's who we've got. Okay, Rookie of the Year, Yordan Alvarez in the American League, right? No one else?
Yep, that's who I have too.
National League, there's one big name that everyone's going to gravitate towards, but I'm
Oh
actually
no,
leaning.
don't hot take me now. You know the right answer.
And who's the right answer? Say it for everyone.
Pete Alonso. Come on, it's polar bear season.
So I went with Mike Soroka.
Why?
I think, and I'm going to get into this when I talk about Cy Young. I get a Cy Young caliber year. He was the frontline starter on the Braves, a team that was second in the National League, and they really needed him to be. Because if he did not, I think he was so important to that staff. They had, they have guys with potential, but, and we'll get into this with some of the Cy Young stuff. Like, as much as I love Hyunjin Ryu, he's got Bueller, he's got Kershaw. I look at valuability, if that's a word.
It's like my strategize. We'll just go with it.
I just think he was so important to that Braves pitching staff, and the fact that they won the division, won 97 games. That's where I go Soroka. I know Pete's going to get it, and he deserves it. I'm not going to say he doesn't deserve it, but I just think Soroka should get a little more attention for this award.
All right. Well, that's not what I was expecting, but I like your take.
AL Cy Young. This is a good one. Who do you have?
Justin Verlander.
I went with Cole.
You did? Okay. Well, I have Cole winning the MVP of the World Series, so that's why I went that direction. But I could totally see. Yeah. Oh, either way. They're both great options.
Yeah, flip a coin and see which way it goes, really, for those two.
Honestly.
Cole did have a lower ERA, and they gravitate toward this. I'm not a huge strikeout guy, but he did have 25 more strikeouts than Verlander. They both had over 300 strikeouts this year, which is insane to have two guys on your pitching staff like that. But I would go Cole. I think most of the other numbers are the same, and so ERA is most important to me, and I'll just gravitate to the guy with the ERA, I guess.
Alrighty. I respect that.
So National League, who do you have?
This is hard for me. It was a toss-up between two people. I had a hard time picking between Max Scherzer and Jacob deGrom, but I ended up going with deGrom.
So it's interesting. I ended up with neither of those guys.
Oh, who did you pick?
Well, I was between two other guys, and I'm going to give you my thought process. It's a little similar to what we were just talking about with the Rookie of the Year and how important Soroka was to his staff, and then another guy and how important he was to his staff. I just want to comment on deGrom and Scherzer because Scherzer missed a lot of time, and he kind of struggled a little bit down the stretch. And deGrom, here's the thing, the thing that I have a tough time voting for him if I had a vote, But deGrom had a few big starts down the stretch. I think one of them was with the Cubs. They had some games where they really needed to win, and he didn't do very well. And that's September games do matter more than the early season games. So I maybe I shouldn't be looking at who has the most momentum, but I'm looking at two other guys.
But before you say yours, I just want to defend my deGrom pick really fast. He hasn't allowed a run since September 9th, which
that's true.
That is an accomplishment in itself. He has a 7.02 ERA. I know that you were kind of mentioning some of those struggles in there, but he has the best strikeout. He has 255 strikeouts in the National League, which is the best out of all National League pitchers. So, I guess that's why I leaned more towards him. And I think he was really the bright spot that the Met did this year besides Polar Bear. So,
and I do think he's going to end up getting more votes than the guys that I have ahead of him. The two starts that I'm referring to, I just pulled them up. August 29th against the Cubs, 4 runs, and September 3rd at Washington, 4 runs. And those were 2 games. Now, that's we're talking about 4 runs. That's not like him wetting the bed. He didn't do horrible or anything like that. I just would have, if he had I would have liked to see if they had won those games, because they lost both of them, and had he pitched better in those games, I would give him the award. But I just think those were two games that they really needed a big-time performance from him in, and they didn't get it. So there were just a couple other guys that I gravitated towards, and that's Mike Soroka and Jack Flaherty. Jack Flaherty's second half of this year was just unheard of. It was very similar to what won the award for Jake Arrieta a few years ago. He was just unbelievable. He had a sub-1 ERA like the last 2 or 3 months of the season, which is just ridiculous. So, and then I look at the other factor of both those guys emerging as a super important frontline starter to their pitching staffs that won the division. So that's my argument for both those guys. And I guess I would go Flaherty just because he was so dominant the stretch. That's where I'm coming from.
I understand. Yeah, no, it's a good pick. I mean, he's going to be so good.
Yeah.
I'm so excited to watch him pitch in the future just because I think he's on a really good trajectory. And he's got some crazy stuff too in his arsenal. So I don't not like your pick.
Okay, good. All right, an MVP in the American League. This is one that is kind of open. Like, there are some different ways you could go.
It is, but at the same time, it isn't.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, you could make a case for a few people. For me, it ultimately came down to Mike Trout or Bregman, and I ended up going with Trout. I don't think there's a better player in baseball than Trout. So I think it's hard to, I don't know. I know that he's struggled with some injuries, but I really think that he's going to take it this year. And I can see why people would make the case for Bregman. He's done an incredible job with the Astros, but yeah, I went with Trout.
You know, those two guys are so close together, and they're just different ways that you could go about this, because you could say one guy's team made the playoffs and he also played 22 more games, which is Bregman.
Right.
They're very similar, 40-plus home runs, 45 for Trout. I'm looking at the numbers right now. 45 for Trout, 41 for Bregman, 104 RBIs for Trout, 112 for Bregman. OBP, both over 420. Bregman has a better average, 296 versus 291. So really, you could go either way. The one thing that just swings it a little bit, you ever look at park adjusted OPS plus?
Yeah.
Trout's OPS plus is 185. And Bregman.
Wow, that's crazy. 167.
I've seen 162 for Bregman.
Oh, it might. Okay, I see 167, but I might be.
Just could be. Are you on Baseball Reference?
No, I'm looking at the Astros stats reference.
Oh, maybe they gave him a little boost. So I like the park adjusted OPS metric because it factors in what kind of ballparks these guys are playing in, and that is a big time hitters park in Houston.
Definitely.
I'm going Trout as well, so we agree again.
There we go. One more on the board for agreement.
And you mentioned National League. Go ahead and give your case. I know you had Bellinger, so give me your pitch.
Yeah, I went with Bellinger. I think it would have been close if Yelich wouldn't have been hurt. I think also I could have made a case for Ketel Marte. I wish I could make a case for Ketel Marte, but considering his injury, his small market team, Diamondbacks not in the playoffs, there's a kind of a lot working against him.
Yeah.
But Bellinger is 305 batting average. 47 home runs, 15 stolen bases. I could just go on and on. He has come, outside of the numbers, he's come up in such clutch situations when, the Dodgers were behind or it was a close game, and he just somehow out of nowhere pulls a home run out of his pocket to give him the lead. Yeah, I think Bellinger's going to take it.
He very well may, but I went with Yelich.
Okay.
And I'm looking at the numbers, and it's kind of similar. We both sided with Trout, even though he had played 20 less games than Bregman, and that's similar because Bellinger played 25 more games than Yelich did this year.
Right.
Yelich, 44 homers, Bellinger 47. That's pretty close. Bellinger does best him in RBIs, 115 to 97. Stolen bases, though, Yelich has double the amount. He stole 30. He had a 44. He almost had a 45-30 year had he been healthy. Batting average is 24 points better. I mean, Yelich hit 329, 429 OBP, better in OBP, better than in OPS by 75 points. In OPS plus, Yelich is better than Bellinger by 10, 179 to 169.
Yeah, I mean, Yelly's numbers are definitely better. I think I was leaning more towards Bellinger because Yelly obviously won last year, so I think it'd be cool to see someone new win. Obviously, I know that doesn't really matter as much.
Yeah.
But and this is coming from someone that detests the Dodgers, but I think, and if you consider too that Bellinger is making like $500,000 this year. Not that, again, that really counts for anything, but it's not as if he's playing for the money. He's playing because, he loves to play and he's good at baseball. So I guess they're just like small factors why I went in that direction. Yelly definitely has the advantage on numbers, though, and Yelly is a great, great baseball player, but I think I'm just pulling a little bit more for Belly.
It's interesting because they were pretty even halfway through the year. And then
they were.
Yelich really started to take the lead down the stretch, but then he gets hurt. And that allowed Bellinger to catch up, and now there's a lot of momentum for Bellinger because he played those last 2 weeks. So it'll be interesting. I mean, Anthony Rendon had a great year. He hit 319 with 34 homers, 126 RBIs. So he's going to be in the mix. And then you could go with Freeman and Acuna from the Braves as well.
Don't forget about Ketel.
And Ketel Marte as well. So
I mean, he had a phenomenal season.
Yeah, it wasn't talked about enough. I voted for him for the All-Star game.
Yay!
Just to be clear.
You better have.
I was the only Cubs fan not to vote for Javi Baez.
Oh, okay. I don't even want to talk to you about Cubs fans and the All-Star voting.
Oh, yeah. I'm not.
That was awful.
I'm not into that. I don't like that. You vote
that was
for who
so bad. I agree. I mean, come on. We all know that the Cubs have a ton of fans. That's great, but half the people that were from the Cubs that were in the All-Star game did not deserve to be there. Sorry, hot take.
All due respect to Kyle Schwarber and Jason Hayward. How dare you? How could you say that about them?
Right? I think I was the most upset by Hayward. I was like, what is that all about?
Well, this was a lot of fun, Makayla. I'm really excited to watch the playoff games this weekend. Any special plans for the games?
Oh, man, I like to just sit on my couch with a bowl of popcorn and my DVR going. I'm very specific about how I like to watch baseball. I don't like to be bothered. So I'm just going to sit on my couch. I'm going to watch the games. I'm going to tune everything else out. It's going to be good. It's going to be fun. I'm so excited.
Are you going to multi-screen at any point? Put two games on at once?
Of course. Yeah. Totally. I have MLB TV, obviously. So
yeah,
I will be one on my phone, one on the TV, one on the laptop. I'll probably convince my brother to let me use his laptop so I can, get some more action in there. But yeah, I'm excited.
And lastly, is there anything that you would like to promote while you're here? Like any projects that you're working on at the moment that people should check out? Would you like to promote your social media, Twitter handle, anything of that nature?
Yeah, so you guys can follow me on my Twitter account at Makayla E. Perkins, Makayle Perkins. I love interacting with fellow baseball nerds on Twitter. As you will probably see, 90% of my tweets are about baseball. I also have my podcast with my co-host from The Rundown on ESPN Radio. It's called The Rundown. You can find it on Apple Podcasts, also on ArizonaSports987.com. And follow me on Twitter. I just got a new job with hockey. So if you're also a hockey fan, I'll probably be transitioning most of my content to hockey. So we can geek out about the NHL together. But thank you again so much for having me. This was so much fun. I love talking playoff baseball. So I appreciate you having me on. Yeah,
sure thing, Makayla. Let's do it again sometime.
Absolutely. Oh, and also I'm kicking your butt in the fantasy league.
What's your record?
I'm 3-1.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I'm 2-2 now. I have had some lack of depth at receiver after Antonio Brown went bananas.
Yeah, Tyreek Hill was my receiver, and we all know how that turned out. So I would have won last week too, but the Packers defense wet the bed, and that just what killed me. So, I was almost 4-0, but I'll take 3-1.
It'll be interesting to see how things play out. Thank you so much, Makayla.
Thank you.
So that does it for my conversation with Makayla Perkins. What a great job she did today. Really fun talking MLB playoffs, awards, managers, everything of that nature. Hopefully she comes back soon. If you enjoyed this episode of the podcast and you'd like to hear more, go ahead and subscribe to the Jack Vita Show on iTunes, Spotify, or wherever it is that you get your podcasts, and you will never miss an episode. You can get in touch with me on Twitter with my Twitter handle at Jack Vita Show. I love interacting with all of y'all and hearing your thoughts on what you think of the episodes. Who is your World Series pick? Tweet it at me. MVP, tell me where I was wrong. Tweet at me in a couple weeks. Tell me how wrong I was about these picks. I'm here for it. It is at the Jack Vita Show. That's it for today's show. So thank you so much to everyone for listening. I'll see you next time. Bring in the dancing lobsters.